here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
Hi, I'm Evan Ponstingle, the author of Kings Island, A Ride Through Time. You're listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast.
Hey, this is Hunter from the On the Hunt podcast, and you're listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast.
Hi, I'm Grace Peacock, Director of Communications at Canada's Wonderland, and you are listening to the Coaster Challenge podcast.
I accept the Coaster Challenge.
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 Do you accept the Coaster Challenge?
What is the Coaster Challenge? A group of regular people that went from fearful to fearless, all from riding roller coasters. So please secure your hats and glasses. It's time to take the Coaster Challenge. Here are your hosts, David Cantu and Jenna Gazelle.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is the Coaster Challenge podcast, and I'm David Cantu. And today, Jenna has the day off, so we are actually going to be going solo today. It's been quite a busy February for us over here, and I hope everyone had a wonderful Valentine's Day. A lot of couples out here in California, man, just seeing everything at Disneyland and over at Knott's Berry Farm, and it's just been really, really amazing. It's just been one crazy year, and there's a lot going on in the coaster community right now, especially in the theme parks. It looks like Top Thrill Dragster will not be open at all this entire coaster season, and we still got lots of new coasters going to be opening up. We got Emperor going to be opening up by March here at SeaWorld San Diego, Pantheon over at Busch Gardens, Iron Gwazi is already open, and it's so far people are just flooding down to Florida, and people are just saying they just really love this coaster. This looks like it's going to be a really, really awesome coaster season this year, guys, so I hope you guys are all ready to go and got your trips planned, and hopefully you got your hotel rooms and your flights booked. This would be the best time to do it while the prices are on the low side on a lot of things. Anyway, we've got a very special guest for all you guys here today. Andrew is standing by. He's got a very special guest in the house. He's got Jason Ginsburg. He is, on the popular podcast, The Season Pass. Jason actually plays a character named Murph from Fake Theme Park. It's really, really funny. I highly recommend you guys to definitely check out this podcast. It's really awesome. Well, what exactly is Fake Theme Park? Well, Jason Ginsburg has been doing Fake Theme Park for many years. He plays several characters. Murph is one of his main ones. So we'll actually check it out in this week's YouTube highlight clip of the week.
YouTube clip of the week.
Alright, so in this week's YouTube highlight clip of the week, we're just going to do something very unique here. It's not really quite a YouTube channel, but it's basically a podcast episode. But basically, like we said, we have a very special guest in the house today, and he's got a very special announcement that he's going to be sharing with Andrew for the very first time that's ever been mentioned at all on the air. We are the first ones to have it, but the thing is, before we get to that, what exactly is Fake Theme Park, and what does Jason Ginsburg do? Well, here are some highlights of his character Murph in Season Pass.
The Season Pass podcast.
Hi, this is Doug Barnes, and welcome to Vintage Season Pass, enhancing your love for themed entertainment with gems from the largest podcast archive of conversations from the leaders of this industry. Okay, from episode 256, we have here Murph Gantley, also known as Fake Theme Park on Twitter, and a good friend at the time that this was recorded, we didn't know, Jason Ginsburg. So this is the start. This is where Murph started. This is where we first heard from Murph. This is the first time that Murph ever spoke to public. So from episode 256, here's Murph Gantley, a.k.a. the real person is Jason Ginsburg. Here we go, Murph. First off, is the name of the park actually Fake Theme Park?
Well, the name of the park is on all the signs. Certainly you can read. So I think it's pretty obvious what the name of the park is. Great question to start with, though. That's a good one.
All right, good.
Yeah, we're really doing our research over here at Season Pass.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we do. We research. We that's our whole thing is to make sure that we know all about you before we get you on. So since I know so much about you, can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about how this all began? When did Fake Theme Park start, and how did you get involved with the industry?
Well, I guess I was born at a very early age. It made things very difficult for me, but I'm born into just immeasurable wealth. When I was born, I literally wealthiest person on the planet at that moment. A life of luxury, a happy childhood. But then the Allies landed on Normandy, and they took it all away, and we had to move to South America for a while. Kind of a dark time. But after that, my father, the family moved to America, and he opened a dry cleaner in a very competitive area. It actually was Dry Cleaners Row. And so to stand out among the other dry cleaners, he would have little attractions. He had penguins sometimes, balloons. So that's when I got the idea that you could use attractions to sell crap. And then I realized, what if the crap was the attraction?
Yeah.
And so that's where I got the idea. I bought a 400-acre chicken ranch, ate all the chickens. That was 2 years right there. And then I began making movies, opened it up to the public, and the famous studio tour part of the park was born. And then in the 50s came along the other various attractions and rides and shows. And then animals, we get animals in the park. There's bats, horse, really any animal that wanders into the park becomes an attraction.
Becomes part of
the world of raccoons.
Oh, I think I heard about that.
Yeah, it was originally the world of blue jays. The raccoons came in, took over. Now we just leave it to them. No point in upsetting with natural balance of nature.
Yeah.
So that's how the park got started. That was one day before some of my competitors, who I will not name, and they've been riding my coattails ever since.
Yeah, really. So we're saying that this happened in, you said, 1950. So there was another park that opened at that time.
Well, in 1915, yes, there was a guy I knew, Carl Lemley, who started a studio of some kind, and also had people coming in and watching the movies. And eventually, it grew into this pale imitation of my park, Universal Studios.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I figured. And then same thing seemed to happen in 1955 when you actually turned into the theme park.
Yeah, what a coincidence. What a coincidence. Yeah, I had all these attractions and rides and shows and princesses, and the press was all set to show up, and then all of a sudden this other park opens in Anaheim, and we're second billing.
Yeah,
I think we fixed that now. I think we all know we got the last laugh on that one.
Yeah, I think so. Murph, I mean, you've got such a history, such a long history in this industry. Can you tell us of some of the rides or attractions that you opened with? Not when you turned into the theme park in the 50s. What were some of your big attractions?
Well, I guess the signature attraction would be Chaos Coaster, still operating. These days guests may hear, when they get near the attraction, the sounds of screws coming unscrewed, metal creaking, struts stressed, leaning. But it's still a beloved attraction. They also might hear, possibly, they get close enough, the wails of the 23 people that died over the years on the attraction. Not all at once.
No.
Not all at once, Dean.
Oh, thank God.
23 separate single fatality accidents. So I think the odds are pretty good. If you think about it, if you're in a plane, the plane goes down, you're all going down.
Yeah.
But if Chaos Coaster has one of its breakdowns, which it does with alarming regularity, then the odds are only one guy is biting the dust, and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
So the odds are always in your favor, like the book the kids are reading. Like they say, the girl with the bird who's on fire, and she shoots the bows at the bird, and she's angry. Angry Games or something.
Hunger Games, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea for an attraction.
For an attraction?
I'm going to declare that right now, the rights to that entire idea, just so we're clear. The kids killing kids has kind of a theme park feel to it.
Yeah, definitely. Where's the park located?
Well, we're on the James Buchanan Freeway. So you take the James Buchanan Freeway until it ends. And then you turn off the paved road, and you'll pass by a lot of memorials to people that have died in car wrecks. Keep going, and then you make a left. Usually to left, it may be a right depending on what time of day. And then you're in parking lot 37. It's just a quick, short hop on the shuttle, and then you get on the tram and moving walkway, and then you walk a little more, and then you can usually hail a taxi at that point, and you'll be in the park literally 45 minutes after you get in a vehicle. So
that's awesome.
That's
an attraction in and of itself. That's incredible.
No, that doesn't sound like it's too much effort.
I just wanted to jump back a bit since we mentioned the Hunger Games and branded IP and for theme park attractions, and because you're both a movie studio and a theme park, have there been any films that your studio has been involved in the production of that you then turned into a theme park attraction?
Oh yes, well we have Galveston Blake and the Temple of the Cursed Jewel. He's a swashbuckling 1930s adventurer. You enter this ride and you're in search of 3 legendary prizes, either treasure or unlimited refills at a restaurant, or the ability to predict the score of Conference USA football games.
Yeah, that makes so. Wait,
one of those you win that.
I know that, Robert. I know that you have this whole question on brands and everything, and I definitely want to get back into it. But I was reading up something, Murph, that also you actually were a little frustrated about not actually creating haunted mazes, because didn't you have those as well beforehand?
Yes, we had all kinds of mazes that were based on basically whatever scares me at the moment. So this year it was spiders and the Greek Euro crisis. And we find that usually people have some sort of reaction to that of some kind. They're either screaming or their mouths are open in a yawn-like gesture. I don't know what that is, but we're definitely getting a reaction from people.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I'm sorry. Let's go back to the brands, because I just wanted to make sure, because the main thing that I think that people need to understand is that you had quite a few of things established, movie studio, theme park, walk-through mazes, obviously roller coasters. You had this stuff done well before everybody
animals.
else. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You even have a petting zoo there, right?
Yes, although we've changed the name recently to Biting Zoo, just so the expectations are set. And again, most of those animals are hamsters, just to be completely honest. Due to budget cuts and regulatory issues and the EPA. And but yes, children are welcome if they've had all their shots, and then they can pet up to 3 animals.
Up to 3. Now, tell me a little bit about this. The budget of running a park like this, especially when you do have some limitations and sometimes you have some situations that happen. I mean, how is it that you're able to budget for a park when you have limitations sometimes?
Well, I've sold the ground underneath the park for high-risk fracking. And we had a policy in the summer where we charge guests to sit in the shade. Obviously, you can't do that in the winter, so we simply charge guests to sit anywhere. Simply to sit down is a fee. VIP guests can lean. So that's those revenue streams. Plus, we also do sponsorships. We have marketing in the park. Right now, because it's cold, a lot of smoking, which is not banned in the park, by the way. We encourage it. We have deals. Captain Lightning smokes Marlboros, and Jimmy Jaguar, of course, our famous mascot, he smoked only Camel Lights, and all the princesses chew Skull.
Nice. I will.
Wow, that is really awesome. It's really fun, guys. If you guys want to hear more about Fake Theme Park and hear more about Murph, you can always check it out in the podcast called The Season Pass. And so that was a really good YouTube highlight clip of the week.
YouTube clip of the week.
All right, so Andrew is standing by today with our very special VIP in the house. We've got Jason Ginsburg, and also known as Murph from Fake Theme Park. It's a really exciting special episode, guys. I hope you take the time to listen. So take it away, Andrew.
This is Andrew, one of the producers of the Coaster Challenge podcast with you today. And today I'm talking to a very special guest, the one, the only, the founder of Fake Theme Park. Welcome to the podcast, Jason Ginsburg.
Thank you, Andrew. It is a pleasure to be here.
I'm glad to have you. I've been a big fan of the work you do with Fake Theme Park, both the in the social media verse, if you will, as well as the work you've done in the podverse. I love the audio stuff that you've done, especially with Season Pass podcast. So friends of the podcast here as well. We've actually had Doug and Robert. We've talked to them, and yeah, they're great people, and enjoyed everything you've shared on that podcast. So yeah, for sure.
They are great sports. I reached out to them myself. The first podcast I ever did with Fake Theme Park, and I was still anonymous back then. I simply reached out to them and wrote them an email from a fake email account. I gave a fake name. I had to have burner app. They took the bait. I mean, God bless them. They actually agreed to that. who I was, where I was, what they were getting in the deal. So I owe them a lot because they took a big chance by having not me on. They had Murph Gantley on, who is
Right.
Talk about he's crazy. That began a great relationship with them. Yes, I agree.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that was back in 2013 or so, I think.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. 8 years now, 9 years. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Well, before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's kind of take a step back here. So Jason, I know who you are, but for the benefit of our audience listening, tell us a bit about yourself and how you've been involved in the theme park industry.
Yes, I was a tour guide at Universal Studios Hollywood, my main role there for almost 10 years. So I did that. I was pursuing an acting career. I'd gone to USC and was trying to be an actor and a writer, mostly an actor. And one of the best jobs in many senses of the word is a tour guide at Universal because they let you lead. They assume most of the guides there are some kind of actor or musician or stand-up or something. So you actually can leave on your shift and come back for an audition. It is even with the union that you are part of it. So instead of waiting tables, you can do that. So I was doing that. Nice. And so I gave regular tours, the big 4-car tram everyone knows is famous. Also the VIP tours, which they still offer now, which are great. They're a little more sort of semi-private on a little trolley. You get to get off the tram and walk around the studio a lot and go inside the building. It's very cool. I did that a whole lot later on as I got more experience. I hosted the backdraft attraction. I made announcements out front, the front gate. For one summer, I was even a paleontologist at the Jurassic Park ride. I was actually a character in the entertainment for a year. Yeah. So that was all fun. I met my wife there. She's also a former tour guide. I met her in the break room at Universal.
Oh, nice.
And then I left that job, was at an agency for a while and was learning the then new field of social media. This was about that time when Twitter was just taking off. Facebook had just become a thing. Facebook, maybe people don't remember, it was just for colleges. First it was just
originally,
colleges. So then it was just become open. We were still on Myspace back then. So I was at an agency doing all the social media. And then after 2.5 years, it finally succumbed to the recession and I had no job and all the social media experience. The beginning was kind of a new thing and thought, I could do comedy. I am an actor and a comedy writer and I did improv and sketch comedy and stuff. And thought no one's really making fun of theme parks. Why don't I make fun of them? And I very early on decided, well, I can't just make fun of Disney or Universal. Wouldn't it be more fun to make up a park? And that way I could say, oh, this burned down. Oh, this fell over. Oh, this character. In real life, that's not true. You would know it's not true if I can't do fake Disney headlines. So I made up my own park, unnamed, no locations ever given. And then this was a big time of the year, a big time of Twitter when things were still anonymous. Everything had anonymous, fake in the name. So I thought I'll just do it too. I'll be anonymous. So I was anonymous for many years. So that's how this all began. Was I had the social media experience, a Universal experience, and a lot of free time.
Gotcha. Interesting. Yeah. Well, certainly. Thank you for giving that a kind of intro and overview. Certainly we'll talk a lot more about fake theme park and what it was and what it is and what's going on with it, what's happening and whatnot. But before we get to that, we're going to actually talk about you just as a person yourself, Jason Ginsburg. And along those lines, you mentioned that you were for about 10 years, you were a tour guide at Universal Hollywood. So you said part of being a tour guide, they had the VIP side of it, but you were also were for a while, you were one of the people that did the narration and whatnot on the big tram tour, right? The famous tram tour there, right? Yeah. So that's really cool. I knew you were a tour guide at Universal. I remember just hearing about you when I learned about you several years ago, thanks to Season Pass. But I wasn't sure if that was just like the VIP tour side. That's really cool. You've done both. But anyway, so it's really cool that you did and were a part of for a long time what I consider to be the best part of Universal Hollywood and what really differentiates it. So that's really cool. So what we're going to do now is that, I recognize that you've worked in the theme park industry. Obviously, you enjoy it and you obviously enjoy humor as well. But let's talk about theme parks a little bit more in terms of what you've enjoyed over the years and your preferences and whatnot. And we'll get into theme park therapy a little bit, of course, which is a big mission of this podcast. First off, let's just start off with a really simple question. Going back to when perhaps you were very young or whenever it was the first time you went to a theme park, what was the first theme park attraction you experienced?
I'll cheat a bit by not naming any major park because we had something very weird in Dallas. That's where I'm from. That doesn't exist anymore, but you can Google this. It was called Penny Whistle Park, and it was an indoor park. I mean, entirely in like a giant, almost like an airplane hangar in Dallas. I guess East Dallas. It was for kids, for little kids. Obviously, as you can imagine, indoor park things can't be very long, very tall, fast. So it was noisy. There was a lot going on. Everything blinked and had flashing lights. So I remember going on things that were just slow, either going around in a circle or somewhat going up and down, but nothing like a coaster. I definitely remember going there with my little sister, who's 4 years younger than me. That was my first memory is definitely that. We were near Arlington with Six Flags. the original Six Flags, as a matter of fact. But no one in my family, including me, I really like roller coasters. We really didn't go there very often.
Right.
It was very much a coaster park.
Right,
So
of course.
that is my favorite experience. Penny Whistle Park in Dallas.
Penny Whistle Park. Interesting.
Anything at all, yeah.
Interesting. Next thing I'd like to ask you about is, now this could be a roller coaster you've been on, because I know you're not a big fan of those, so I know those probably intimidate you then. Could be a drop ride, could be like a Tower of Terror, it could be a dark ride, it could be, it's a small world, because that scares a lot of people. A lot of people don't want to go on that for other reasons. It could be whatever it may be. Tell us what ride from Penny Whistle Park, when your first park you went to today, what ride has scared you the most so far in your life?
I think I really hadn't been at Six Flags that much. The real first big major park I went to when I was 15, my high school did my singing group, we call it my high school chorus, went to Magic Music Days at Disneyland. So we all actually flew out there, and so I was there the first time in Disneyland as a 15-year-old with just a bunch of my classmates, and I didn't know the rides. I wasn't sure if I knew what I liked and didn't like, so we went to Space Mountain. I remember the whole time thinking like, well, this is sort of indoors. People were assuring me it wasn't that big of a deal, and I thought, well, and it's I like science fiction, I like space. What is it? What could it possibly be? And it was not pleasant. I mean, it was, for me. I wouldn't say for anybody else. It is It's dark. You really can't see what's going on. Back then you couldn't, so I wasn't really sure. I was sort of being just jerked around, having no idea where it was going to end, because you can't really see. It's not like a linear. As far as I could tell, I don't know what it was. I still picture it being almost like this round thing that just goes round and round and round. So dark in there. So after that was over, that was one of the first things we did, and that colored the whole rest of my trip, because I didn't want to go on things with them. I was now I was reading all the warnings on everything. Nothing is really, I'm not sure at that time, was as bad. It may have been the absolute worst thing to ride first, because now I knew I didn't like that. Now I had confirmation that anything like that was going to make me miserable. So I did eventually break off on my own and just do my own thing, or try to do smaller things like Haunted Mansion or This Small World that are, there's no speed in them at all. And there's plenty of that at Disneyland. There really is. There's only a few at that time, real crazy rides. Space Mountain stopped me forever, but that was one that I did not. Yeah, the whole time I just was felt nauseous.
So now, first of all, you didn't know before getting on the ride that it was a roller coaster, right? You didn't really know what it was about.
I thought it was some kind of, a coaster that wouldn't, or what a roller coaster really even meant to me, because I'd not really been on them enough to know I didn't like them. My friends hadn't gone on them. My family was not a coaster family. So I was sort of thought, well, it's indoors, and it's science fiction, so it can't be too fast. It must be some kind of story, or you stop or something halfway through. But no, it's a roller coaster in the dark is what it is. And
right.
Not good.
Okay. Yeah. And then it also, even once you're on it, because it's a very dark ride, as you pointed out, I've certainly been on Space Mountain there at Disneyland, and you can't really see where you're going. So when we talk about fear, the interviews I've done here on this podcast, and just being a theme park and coaster enthusiast, the common fears, especially in this area, are things like fear of heights, fear of going upside down, maybe a fear of going fast or braking, changes in any kind of forces and things like that. But what we haven't talked a lot about, correct me if I'm wrong, is once you were on the ride, it sounds like the fear you were dealing with was the fear of the unknown, right?
Yeah, I could not, I definitely, all these years later, not knowing what was happening.
Yeah.
Which I guess is a thrill for other coaster fans. It's something new to experience. And for me, it's basically my first real ride. Maybe the worst thing to pick, because you don't even know when it's going to end, or what's around the corner, something is going to level out for a while, or we have a giant drop ahead. So it's really thrilling to not know. But for me, it was horrible to not know.
Right. Absolutely. I totally get that. And, kind of something that goes along with that is a lot of people, if you were to do a poll, on social media or in person, and ask people, even perhaps coaster enthusiasts, if you were to ask them, how fast does Space Mountain at Disneyland go? You would get people saying, oh gosh, yeah. Oh, it's 60 miles an hour. Oh, it's 70 miles an hour. It's just like Price is Right. They'd all be going over. Space Mountain goes, I think it's roughly about 40 miles an hour. It might be slower than that. It's very slow, but because it's so dark in there, your mind is filling in the pieces that are missing, and your mind is interpreting that you're going much faster. And this is why, and I know you're not a coaster enthusiast yourself, Jason, but I and a lot of our fans are, and I am, again, here in Florida, it gets dark earlier, anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world for that matter. Earlier it gets dark for coaster enthusiasts, the better when they're at a theme park, because we all crave the night ride, if you will, on an outdoor coaster. And why is that? Because sometimes outdoor theming can pop out more, like on Velocicoaster. But the big reason is because the rides, the coasters, they feel like they're going faster than they are. There's that interpretation and element that, your mind is filling in there. So let's kind of step through a couple things here. So you didn't necessarily know what this ride was or wasn't. And this is, we've talked about this with other guests in the show. A lot of coasters are outside, but Disneyland, even Universal, there's a number of coasters that are inside. And with the indoor ones, when you're in the queue, you don't know what's going on. You don't see the ride. That's your situation with Space Mountain. You're, delving, you're heading down into the mountain there. So talk to me, what was going through your head that you remember at 15 years old as you were, walking through the queue? Like, were you nervous? Were you wondering what was going on? What was going to happen?
I must have been, because the fact that I had not been on roller coasters with Arlington so close to growing up in Dallas, I believe. So I can't quite remember that part of the experience. Since then, I do get nervous in queues, even for things that I know are going to be okay, even maybe not simulators, which I can ride all day, but things that are just me. I've recently rode Transformers at Universal. I've not been back.
Right.
I live in New York now, so even that, just these like being in a queue and going, I know, and there's all these days there's so many warnings. And you can still watch the videos on YouTube and watch the whole track and read all kinds of reviews. People, it's wonderful now that people do put up reviews. People do have kids and say, "Can I hit my kid on this? What am I going to experience if I don't like these 8 different things?" But even so, just that there's something about that queue system that I'm not sure I'm into. Once you get strapped in, I shouldn't say you, I'll put it in the first person. There's a helpless feeling of just whatever the things are. There's no stopping. You can't beg whoever, whether your mom is in the seat next to you or your wife, no one's helping you. No one's going to stop the ride for you. That's the thing, is there's no way to know that it's too late. Once you're in, you're in. You just endure it, which is not a fun big experience. So yeah, still to this day, when I'm in just regular queues, it's going, I'm not sure what I'm in for, unless I really do know. If it's something that's something like Terminator or something like that, that is just, there's no way this is going to be. For me, it's really speed and drops.
And speed and drops are the issue for you. Okay.
Simulators all day. Simulators, you're not really moving. Simulators, but there's something about that I can tell that we're not really going anywhere. So simulator ride, any kind, I much prefer those.
Okay, I see.
You're not really going anywhere. How can you get there? You're not going upside down or anything. Yeah.
Right. So are you okay, for example, on Wizarding World or Forbidden Journey ride?
I was surprised that I was. Yeah, man, a big deal to do that at my last trip to Universal, and was, yes, mostly okay. It was kind of thrilling after a while, once I got used to what was going to happen. But I did a lot of research. Oh man, I watched every video of that. If here it is with the lights on, I heard every possible review that was, would I like this? And it seemed like it's on anything that's controlled on whatever that's called, a track, like Transformers, like Spider-Man, where you are on Indiana Jones. You're not just flying, you're on some kind of controlled track. So knowing that you can't go too fast or drop too far is a big thing for me. So those are totally fine, those kind of rides.
That's good. Yeah, and in all seriousness, with modern technology and with the variety of different types of rides that technology and creatives at Universal Creative or Imagineering or elsewhere, it really helps people like yourself and others with similar issues to have enjoyable rides that can be thrilling, but in an enjoyable way. And that's why I brought up Forbidden Journey, because that is a little bit more of a thrilling based dark ride. Usually dark rides are not necessarily a high thrill. So, that would be why I was wondering about that. Now, going back to Space Mountain, so you're seeing the warning signs, and of course, there's a lot of legalese on those. They're going to put a lot of things on there just in case and whatnot, and you're not seeing the ride. But now, what happens when you get to the bottom as you're kind of winding around and you're, looking down? Now you can see it's something on a track, and now you're starting to. What are you thinking now when you see what the ride vehicles look like and what they're on?
Yeah, I think it was just a matter of, I'm in now. I'm not gonna. It's still worth trying it, because if people keep saying, as you were saying, it's not that fast. We're on the slower coasters, and it's indoors, so you can't be going too high or anything. So I thought, well, let's. I did not know for sure that I hated these things. Let's see. Now's the time when all my friends seem to be enjoying it. Why shouldn't I? Why would I be different than all the other 15-year-olds that I'm with? Apparently I was, because it was not fun.
Right. So you could have, towards the end there, when you saw the ride vehicle and the track, you could have, as they say, wimped out, but you decided, hey, I feel committed. I'm going to try this. How bad could it be? Blah, blah, blah. And then you described what the experience was like going through the ride. Talk to me and get a little more detail about how you felt once you got off Space Mountain after that first ride.
Yeah, I don't know if there was any sort of feeling of triumph so much as I was that, yeah, it was more exhaustion. I think I didn't throw up. I wasn't crying or anything. It was just not that I brushed that off so easily. If you want to cry, cry. But yeah, I was just more kind of like upset, sort of disoriented that I'd gone through that and thought, well, there's more of this. This is Disney. This is supposed to be Disneyland. This is my first time ever being there. I thought, I don't want to be with these people making me get on rides anymore. So I at some point went off on my own and just either all the other things there was to do that were not roller coaster. Which again, at that point, if I really thought about it, there weren't that many things. Splash Mountain, maybe Matterhorn, which is sort of, but I don't know why. But I just was like, this is not fun. And if they want to go on again, when what do I do? So it's time to just go off on my own. It's still Disneyland. It's still a fun experience, even if you are on your own. I eventually met up with people later on. But yeah, it was a feeling of, that was just, I'm glad it's over.
Right. Yeah. So a little bit kind of almost temporary scarring for you. And you here at this family-friendly theme park, the most family-friendly theme park out there, and you felt almost betrayed and like, oh, how could this happen? And so, but it sounds like you had maybe some fun that day. You did your own thing. You met up with people later, but certainly there was some negativity to it. So have you been on any roller coasters since then?
No, I've been on some drop rides like Jurassic Park at my home theme park where I work.
Yeah.
I've been on that once, but into an actual coaster of any kind, I guess the closest thing I would be something like Forbidden Journey. Right outside of that, Universal is whatever that coaster is called. It was a kids coaster. The wife did it and not me. And I can see that it was not.
Okay.
It's not a fast, crazy. That's Universal's not. There's no room for those big things. But even then, I thought, no, Forbidden Journey is about my speed. That's it for me.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, and, hey, at least you learned, Space Mountain, that you don't like coasters, you don't like the drops and the speed and all that. That makes sense. And again, that's totally understandable. Absolutely. So maybe that is the most fearful experience for you. and again, you've not gone on other coasters, and that makes sense. And it's probably just as well for you. But, other attractions out there, is there any other attractions since riding Space Mountain that you did ride that you were afraid of? The unknown, or getting on it. Maybe you did look at the videos in advance, but you were still somewhat scared, where there was a positive experience out of it when you actually rode the ride.
The thing that comes to mind, to be honest, because we're talking about it, is Forbidden Journey. Because I was so trepidatious about it and almost researched ahead of time. It was all new at Universal. We had not been since Wizarding World had opened. I say we, my wife and I wanted to go on it. Yes, that was the one that I thought, this seems like you're not flying around like a coaster. Let's try this. And that when it was over, I thought, I could do that. At first, it was a little much. I'm still the idea of like being in a harness, so it is you jerk around. You have no control. That helplessness really gets to me. That I have no way. There's no way to. You can't slow it down, stop, adjust yourself in any way to. Just close your eyes and yell, I guess. I'm a big fan of dragons. And once the dragon appeared, it came at us, I thought, okay, this is just within my limit.
Okay.
So that was good. We almost would have done it again if we had time. The Universal's open so little in the off season, like 10 to 6.
Right. Yeah, I was going to ask you if it would be a ride that you'd want to do again. So that's great to hear that you would.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so that was a good positive experience. It's almost like that was a ride almost made for you. The theming of it, like the dragon, it's a big aspect of it. The dragon's part of several parts of the ride, and just the level of thrill. It's like it's just what you feel comfortable with. It's at that limit where anything more would be too much, and anything less would be still enjoyable, but maybe not as thrilling. So it's kind of like your Goldilocks ride almost in a way.
Yeah. I guess I believe before it was 3D, and that was too much.
Yeah, they got rid of the 3D. Yeah.
That's where I need to be.
Yeah, and the one in Orlando does not have 3D. I don't believe it ever did, and I personally am not a big fan of 3D rides, especially during COVID with the masks. The glasses fog up, and it's just. Yeah, I just like being able to see things without anything in front of me. But in any case, so talk to me about having ridden Forbidden Journey and had a really nice positive experience on that one. Did that impact your life in any way? Have you kind of looking at theme parks differently, life differently in any way from that?
It was nice to ride something that was not either just a simulator, one thing.
Right.
Always on the ground like Indiana Jones for that one drop at the end. The drops at Pirates of the Caribbean, I don't like. I don't know how far those drops actually
really? Okay.
I never enjoy. That kind of ruins it doesn't ruin. I mean, it'd be a perfect ride if it weren't for those. I don't know why you have to keep dropping. understand the ride has to be built that way, but yeah, if we could only not have those drops, it'd be perfect. Because it's nice and slow and it's very cool. It's just all this cool theming and the music. It's not a thrill ride. So what are the drops for?
Right.
It was cool to have gone on that after all the preparation I did, because it was only a couple years ago that I survived it and was that I enjoyed it and we thought about it. Could we even maybe do it again if we with everything else at Universal? Yeah, that was nice to know that there maybe is a level out there beyond just simulators and the real slow things that I could do. I'm not sure what is like that, but now if someone does liken something to Forbidden Journey, I go, oh, okay, I know what level that is. And I will, before I go on anything, I will go to the internet and look things up because it's all there. Plenty of people like me or people with kids, or people with various disabilities want to read this stuff, and the theme parks are putting it out there, or at least the reviewers are, the Yelpers of the world are. So I will, that takes away the unknown factor of it. The fact that you're not sure what you're getting into. You know what you're getting into. They describe every single thing about it, all the drops, the speed. People ask all kinds of questions. So I do like that I will never be in a line going, what is this again? And all the signs say it's fast and hard conditions and pregnant women. But what does that mean? A lot of things say pregnant women, with the simulators. Back to the Future ride, you would say that, but you're not, for what? Because there's a restraint. You're not going anywhere. You're hardly moving. So I can't even trust those really, because everything is sort of, I think, over cautious. I will just, I'll go to the internet and then not assume everything is too fast and too scary.
Right. Okay. Well, very good. So going beyond, these rides, ones that you like, ones that are too much for you, and, you kind of figuring out what works, and you've done your research, which is really good. I'm glad that you do that. Just theme parks in general, you've worked in them, you've enjoyed them. Have theme parks in general had any kind of significant positive impact on your life and on you in any ways?
Well, beyond working in one and having a great time, that colors it. I'm a fan of Universal, as is a wife forever. We have posters up in the house.
Nice.
Talking about kind of retro vintage things. And beyond that, if anything, looking back, one of the coolest things that I've ever experienced was the original Star Tours in that same trip.
Oh, yeah.
It had recently opened when I was there at 15. So the fact that you could take a Star Wars ride, even though we look back now and go, it was all models. It was so, it was so clearly how it was shot. It wasn't, it wasn't CGI or anything. It was maybe not the best iteration of Star Wars. This is 1987 technology.
Right.
So that was just I love that. I would go that whenever I can do it. And I have not yet ridden the new version, which I'm sure is 1,000 times better with all the different movies now. That original one of there's a Star Wars ride that I can ride. I have no problem with screaming around me. And it's just we're just kind of tilting.
Right.
No drops. This is totally fine. So it was great in every possible way. But you're flying in space. It's Star Wars. You're hearing the music. Everyone is scared but me. That was still a great experience, I say. So yeah, made me love simulators.
Nice. Yeah. And that was the first of the big modern, realistic simulators. Of course, that was, what led to Back to the Future and others and whatnot. So that was the same trip. So you obviously did that later in the day after Space Mountain. So that maybe was a very positive part of that trip versus Space Mountain being the negative part, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm glad you had a nice positive ride experience. That's great. That's great. So speaking of rides that you enjoy, Jason, so what would you say, now obviously it's not going to be a coaster and that's fine. What would you say your favorite theme park attraction is? It could be a show. It could be Forbidden Journey. What is your favorite theme park attraction of all time?
Well, again, I forgive me, but I have such a love for the studio tour. I mean, both first as a guest and then
I
first rode on that first trip to LA because I had never been to LA before, and then as someone who actually has given the tour on the big tram and on the trolley, and been attacked by a shark 4 times a day for many years. Probably my wife. How could I not love this? And in fact that it is real. I will defend, as you say, Universal Orlando is superior in so many ways. Universal Hollywood is the oldest operating studio in the world. It is the actual studio. When I get to walk on the sets of the VIP tour, it still thrilled me. I took guests VIP tours for most of my time there, 8 years or so. It was still a thrill for me. Every time, we're just like them walking around those sets. I'll go dating back to the old Moss movies in the 30s and the Back to the Future, Courthouse Square. This blew me away. Never mind the guests. So the things are fake, like the shark is obviously there for the tour, but the sets are real, even though they've been rebuilt with various fires. So you're driving through real film history. You're learning something. You're also having fun with the shark attack and King Kong. It was interesting. It would transcend language. Everyone knows Jaws. We had plenty of Asian guests there on the West Coast. People all different, speaking every kind of language. Everyone loved this stuff. And different generations, people knew Courthouse Square from To Kill a Mockingbird. People knew this film all over the place. There more than
Psycho.
Bruce Almighty. Some of the more recent. It was interesting seeing what people connected with. There was always something. 100 years there. So yeah, I can talk this thing up forever. I was a film student.
Sure.
But it really is a different kind of ride entirely. And as you say, nothing like it anywhere else. That is the real studio. It began, the whole theme park began with that tour. There was no park. Now the park eating the studio is eating the sound stages, which I think is unfortunately, but if you want more rides like Transformers, that's what you got to do is tear down historic sound stages to put them there. So yeah, I really do love that ride. And again, it's for everyone, for all ages. It can be scary. Little kids with King Kong and things like that, and even with Earthquake, which is kind of intense.
The flood,
you're not going fast. You're not falling. Nothing really happens. You can stay with water. There's no risk. It's like a haunted house or anything. So good for all ages. You can eat on the train.
You can sleep if you want to nap.
Maximize your time on those 10 to 6 days in January. So is eat on the tram because you're allowed to do that. Yes, that is my favorite attraction for all these reasons and more.
Yeah, no, that's totally understandable. And like I said earlier, I think that is the best thing at Universal Hollywood. And and Disney, they tried to replicate that when they first opened Hollywood Studios. And for years they had their own tour, and I've done it several times. And even with the Disaster Canyon, it's not the same. It was. I love seeing the Golden Girls house. I'm a big fan of the Golden Girls classic show. It's such a great comedy, one of the greatest sitcoms of all time. And and seeing the cars they had there and stuff, it's cool. But the same thing. I've been to Disney Studios Paris. They used to have that there too, and they also had Disaster Canyon there. And again, it's not Universal. It's Disney does certain things better than Universal, at least historically. They have, maybe not so much anymore. But one area that they do not eclipse Universal is with the tram tour. The Hollywood tram tour is very special to me as well, and I can very much relate. And as you pointed out, Universal Hollywood is very starved for space, and they recently bought, not adjacent to the existing Universal Studios property in Hollywood, but a few miles away. I want to say it's an old WB lot or some other lot, film lot with sound stages. And what apparently they're going to be doing is moving some of their productions to those sound stages. That way they can replace the sound stages they're taking away. But I certainly hope, as much as I'm a fan of thrill rides and coasters and all that stuff, I really hope that Universal Hollywood never gets rid of the outdoor sets, the streets of New York and the great set with the airplanes, from War of the Worlds, the Tom Cruise version of the War of the Worlds, and the Psycho House, and, those classic set pieces, Suburban America, all that stuff. I hope they keep those because those are so special. Hopefully, with at least getting rid of the sound stages, moving to different ones off site, that'll be sufficient for them to give them enough space to expand. So I think I know the answer already to this next question. I'll ask you it nonetheless. What is your least favorite theme park attraction that you've been on?
Yeah, Space Mountain certainly was not anything I particularly enjoyed. I don't think anything else that was particularly. I'm not a fan of haunted houses, so I've done a little bit of that. Universal's had them both permanently for a while, and then only just for Halloween Horror Nights. But I was there for Halloween Horror Nights. So yeah, with the idea of walking through something and having people jump out and scare you, I know some people just that live for that, and I do not see the appeal.
Gotcha.
The sets are cool. Seeing scary things happening like on the set is one thing, but people behind you jumping out at you, or the people had chainsaws, that's not fun. So,
right. It's not for everybody.
Yeah. I can, yes, I'm glad we agree. So there's a being that doing those sort of things, but the Universal ones, even ones back in Texas, it was occasionally and think, what is the fun of this? Just being scared.
Right.
Fun for me.
Got it. So I know you're not into horror, but I know one thing you are into is comedy. So let's switch gears here and let's talk about something else special. Let's talk about Fake Theme Park. Big fan. That's how you and I came to know each other. But again, we have our audience here, so we don't want to assume that they know anything about Fake Theme Park. Let's dig into it. So first of all, how long ago did you actually start Fake Theme Park? On the social media side and all that was first, and what inspired you to start it?
It was summer of 2010. I will date myself there. So this is kind of coming out of the recession when I had for a while no job, but I just finished up at an agency. We were in LA, so we're working with entertainment properties and making like videos and posts, sort of viral marketing back then on social media. So I learned I had not learned Twitter until I was there. I had a personal MySpace page. We were still working on MySpace. And then Facebook, while I was there, Facebook became available to the public.
Right.
So we began learning Facebook back when there were walls and poking walls and things like that. But our clients were big like Paramount and Home Shopping Network and big names like that. So I had learned those skills. I had been doing comedy. I was in the improv troupe at USC. I went through Second City, Hollywood, and LA. We formed some of the alumni from the improv troupe at USC formed a professional sketch troupe. We played clubs around LA and even made some money here and there. So I was doing comedy and realized there was comedy happening on Twitter, but nobody was making fun of theme parks. There was no real satire of Disney or Universal or anything in general. I thought, well, I have this insider knowledge as both a fan and an employee of various parts of the park. My wife went into management for a while before she left. I've seen all aspects of it: management, unions, guests, employees. I can make fun of this on Twitter and get attention, get some kind of comedy writing. The thing that was guiding me, probably foolishly, was, if I can say this, that my dad says, the Twitter account that, based on a real guy's father saying crazy things, supposedly,
right,
that became a book. The book became a sitcom with William Shatner. So that was a direct line from funny Twitter account to having a TV show. So I thought, well, maybe that's a thing. Maybe that's something that's possible. Like, at least get attention or get work with comedy writing online every day. So I launched this account. I learned that it made more sense to make a fictional park. I could just do whatever I wanted, make it my own character, my own rides and things. And they would all be a combination of all the parks. So this fake theme park, which has no name, has coasters, has princesses, has a backlot tour, has killer whales, all put together in one crazy place. Things are always going wrong. And sort of the conceit of it that I think makes it stand out is not only is it the general, it matches the tone back then and the cheerful exclamation points of Disney. Everything was so happy and cheerful with Disney's Twitter back in those days. A little more snarky now. I think it's trying to match Universal. So it had all those things you expect to the public, but also it made announcements to its employees that were incorrectly public. So it was talking to cast members, as I called them, thinking that would be the most obvious analog.
Right.
So there are all kinds of announcements, kind of like from HR to the employees of what they're doing wrong, what they're doing, what's happening, and there's raccoons running amok in the park, things like that. All these aspects of this is insanity happening, of both the sort of the facade of everything's fine to also here's what's happening behind the scenes, naming employees, even times, cast member, things are going wrong. So that was it. So I began doing it anonymously every day, multiple posts a day, which I've kept up ever since then. Literally, not metaphorically, literally every single day since I think July 10th, 2010.
Wow. Now, were you, and I know eventually, more recently, a couple of years ago, you actually wrote a book and published the book, which you shared with me. And thank you again for sharing that with me. And then that's a lot of the Twitter posts and the Facebook, all the social media, like all these little funny things you put out there. But even before the book, were you actually generating revenue with Fake Theme Park?
No, it's just Twitter.
It was just for fun.
Twitter and Facebook.
Okay.
Occasionally was spending money on things like ads.
Right.
But there's no way beyond the books. There was no way to, there was no website where I had ads or anything like Amazon deal or anything like that.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. And, I have to say, who doesn't love humor? Some people like horror movies or haunt events like you were just talking about, but I think you'd be really hard pressed to find someone that doesn't love humor. In fact, I would say humor is one of those things that universally, unites all of us on this planet. Is, humor can mean all different languages. There can be language-less humor, where it's just, visual, some of the things in the tram tour and whatnot, things like that. So, humor is so important. We talk about in the mission of our podcast about things like theme park therapy, fighting anxiety, depression, fear, a lot of negativity of the human psyche. One of the best things, as they say, laughter is the best medicine, is humor. And so you've been a source of a lot of that. I think, especially in Twitter and social media, some of the corporations that are, very large on social media, they've gotten more wise to things. And also, even besides social media, commercials, the best commercials, the Super Bowl commercials, the best ones are the funny ones. That's usually the ones that stand out. Sometimes the nostalgic ones or the sappy ones, those can stand out too. But really the comedic, the funny ones. But also on the social media side, some of the Twitter accounts, Silver Dollar City is known for this, but most recently, and much to my joy as being a big Universal fan, is the Universal accounts, both the Hollywood and especially Orlando. And I just, what was it, yesterday before we're recording here, I saw one of the funniest things, and I actually screenshot it and shared it on my social media. And I saw people then were sharing and so forth. And actually, I'd come to remember now, originally the way I saw this was not on Twitter. My friend Ian, friend of the show, he's actually been a guest on the show here. He's one of the co-hosts of the Theme Park Stop or Park Stop podcast, Ian Kaufman. He shared it with me. He's a big Universal fan. So that's how I saw that originally. It was Universal Hollywood was poking at Universal Orlando, again, PR accounts. And Hollywood said, imagine if your park only had one level. SMH, smack my head. And they were just begging for it because Universal Orlando responds, imagine if you only had one park, smack my head. And I mean, I was dying. I mean, it's just so funny. And I love that camaraderie and the competition with the two of them. And, it's just so good. So, humor is just so great in social media and in commercials and movies and TV shows and life. We play fun card games like Cards Against Humanity and, things like that. Humor is so important. And Fake Theme Park was a source of humor very early on in social media days, 2010, like you said, a lot of people didn't have Twitter accounts, Facebook accounts quite yet. Everyone was getting new to it. Facebook had only recently opened up, like you said, to the public. And here you are doing humor where no one else is doing humor about theme parks. If we step forward a few years, as we talked about earlier when I first introduced you, you wound up taking it from a social media only, a text-based format, and got into audio. So talk about what propelled you to do that, how that worked.
Yeah, I thought, well, I have a background in performing. I have a degree in theater. I was trying to be an actor, which is why I was at Universal. I did improv a lot and sketch comedy. And I thought there might be a way to perform this somehow. I already have this character. I mean, I couldn't be a princess. That'd be the most obvious thing. I have a version of Mickey Mouse called Jimmy Jaguar. Again, that doesn't really work in audio, I don't think. I'm not going to do a funny voice for 45 minutes. But there's the CEO, the founder and CEO, who is sort of my version of Walt Disney or Carl Laemmle, called Murph Gantley.
Yes.
Who's just this bonkers old, he's sort of somewhere between like Mr. Burns and P.T. Barnum and Ebenezer Scrooge, all put together. Who's just a cantankerous old guy, and thought, well, I could play him. I could sort of do that voice and be him and just say that way I can say anything. I say all kinds of outrageous things. It's almost like, being Groucho Marx or Don Rickles, or I'll pick an insult comic today that still exists, but I can just be crazy and make fun of everything. So, but still defend my park as being the best in the world. That was my opportunity. So I looked at various podcasts. I liked Season Pass, and I emailed them out of nowhere. Fake Theme Park Gmail account. My name was not on it. I wrote as a marketing. I had a fake name too, Freddie Benson. I used that. I was my that was like the assistant for Mr. Gantley, writing on his behalf. Could we speak to you? And I got to hand it to Doug and Bob, I guess, and Robert, that they agreed to this, to have me on, not knowing anything about me except the Twitter and Facebook account, but had not heard me before. So I came on, still trying to be anonymous, as was the style back then. And I kept it going. I always wanted to keep it going. People kept trying to guess who I was or what park I worked at. Former employee by this point. So I thought, well, I'll just, I don't want to break the mystique and say I'm just some guy. But that's when I was living in New York, so I wasn't even near any parks or anything. So I thought I'll just keep the mystique and the mystery going. That'll be fun. So I got a burner app on my phone. So I had an Orlando area code, even though I'm not a burner app.
Smart.
So yeah, I just called in and was this crazy, cantankerous guy saying crazy things, and they were a fantastic audience, because Twitter, although you do get shares and retweets and likes and comments and things, you can't hear people laugh. And as a performer, I did miss that. People certainly appreciated it and would say so, and would, those little heart symbols and stars and things mean something. But to hear these guys laughing off me improvising in character, like, well, I've come full circle. I'm not being a writer. I'm back to being a performer now, improvising for an audience of 2 and hoping people that were listening, like you, were liking it. Yeah, that was a bold, and I began doing more after that. Even after I revealed myself, people liked Murph Gantley more than me, because I'm just a guy.
He's a caricature. He's truly a caricature.
It's a lot more fun as a guest, I'll say. For the listener, for me, it's a very exhausting thing.
Oh, I can imagine.
Pardon me, but being funny and being clever does take some energy. It's not so natural. Yes. So I get to the point where I would do 2 appearances. I'd be, Jason Ginsburg come on, and then I would leave the room, and Murph Gantley would come in. So I did a lot of those where I was both. It's nice of you to have me on just as myself today, and not Murph can just sit corner for a while.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about where Murph is later. Yeah, for sure. But and just for the audience. So, and by the way, Jason, I want you to know a couple things. So I have shared certainly the first appearance of you and of Murph and Freddie on Season Pass back in 2013. I've shared that episode with many friends. I've played it for friends in the car when we're on the way to the theme park, friends visiting or local friends, and everyone loves it and everyone's cracking up. And so, and I'm certainly, I will make sure with David that we link to all of your Season Pass podcasts, because again, we're good friends with those guys, and Doug and Robert, of course, and also Dusty Sage. We're good friends with him as well. and, with the Mice Pod and Mice Chat, which Season Pass is under. And, we're happy to help support those guys. So we'll make sure to put links to the various appearances that you had on Season Pass in our show notes. And, I know you were also in another podcast that I'm sure, of course, is very much resonant with you because you're a comedian. The theme park side is a podcast, The Ride, with Mike Scott and Jason Sheridan in that case, not Ginsburg, of course. And I did listen to your appearance on there, and that was great. I think your best work in terms of the podcast, the audio stuff, was with the Season Pass. It was just great.
Yeah,
So
they're a good audience.
yeah, no, they're great guys, and they're kickback kind of guys. They're not too stodgy, and it was a perfect audience, as you said, for you to get started with that. I've listened to that first appearance, 2013, many times. Like you said, it's the one that starts with Freddie, and Freddie is kind of this sort of nerdy, he's not very confident in himself. He knows that they really want to talk to Murph, and he doesn't want to be on the recording. He wants to get off as soon as possible so Murph can be there. He gets Murph piped in and all that. So you're telling me that all of this, the way this all started, Doug and Robert and all that, they did not know that this was fake. They did not know that this was.
Well, they didn't know who I was. They knew, the Twitter account is called Fake Theme Park. So
so they knew about Fake Theme Park, right?
They didn't know who I was at all in terms of, I think they may have, I'm not sure if they asked my identity, and I said, I don't feel comfortable.
Okay.
Later on, when they finally pressed me on it. But at first it was just me cold, just emailing them out of the blue saying, can I be on your podcast? And just being funny. The email itself was funny, and that helped convince them.
What role would you say Fake Theme Park had or has had in the theme park social media community and the Podverse? With these various appearances, like what do you think it's done?
Yeah, and I've been on a lot of blogs as well. Easy to interview me by Mice Chat, for example. So I think there have been and there still are other humorous theme park accounts, as there should be. It's funny to make fun of beyond my experience. People who have been there more recently or who are still employees. I thought I was writing for the general audience. I thought everyone knew Disney and the Universal Tour and things like that. What I have found was that it really resonates with employees, both former and current. It seems like we're big on Facebook. People tag each other and are saying and talking about things in the present tense using codes and internal terms that I sort of recognize in various parks. It seems like it's become an outlet for those people, which is not my intent. But it does make sense as it comes from a place of knowledge. If I can make their lives any better, certainly they have. I know working at a theme park is not digging ditches, but being out of the heat, environment that is loud, it can be challenging. Being friendly to people can be tough. So finding any kind of joy in it, that's great. I meant it to be for everyone, so I could be on, have my own TV show. It works with them that I'm serving some kind of purpose, a therapy they need.
Comedy is a great medicine. It's great for the soul. It's great to laugh. So that's awesome. I never thought about before that your work helped those people. That's awesome.
To my own horn, it really does seem to resonate with them based on looking at Facebook and Twitter. And it comes, I hope they know this, man, and if your listeners don't, I'll just say it out flat out. It comes from a place of love. This is my favorite attraction. What did I tell you? I saw the craziness of it. I saw it from all sides. I saw it from the employees themselves, certainly from management, certainly from the corporations owning these parks, from the unions, so that it's equal opportunity. Like, there's no agenda. This is not
of course.
Anyone's worried about what kind of humor this is. I don't think, rarely anyone said you've gone too far. In 1/2 years and 11 years, has someone said that? Yes. Over something ridiculous? Yes. And I do go, I've tweeted every day. There have been some dark days in America over the last 11 years, but often those bad things happen later in the day, and the tweet already went out in the morning. So I can stop today, and I already got a tweet out, so I still have my record of doing it every single day. But even I know when to stop. I would not tweet at every single moment if there was something bad happening. I have a social media professional background.
I don't offend easily with humor and whatnot, but some people do, and that's right, wrong, or indifferent. We're not going to judge that here. But it's good that you have that professional background to kind of be able to kind of skirt things, because with the nature of the humor of Fake Theme Park, whether it be the written humor in social media or the audio form, and it's good that you kind of ride that balance there. And like you said, I could tell it comes from a place of love. It comes from a place of passion, positive passion, what you've come up with. And for the listeners of our podcast here, they're, I'm sure, probably very starting to get curious about what this Fake Theme Park is and want to learn about it. And like I said, so Jason, we've already talked about it a little bit, of course, and how could we not talk about Fake Theme Park without talking about Murph? But tell me, in the 10 plus years you've been, doing Fake Theme Park, you've obviously gotten to know Murph well. And what would you say is the most surprising thing that you've learned about Murph Gantley over these 10 plus years?
Great question. This is like asking Daniel Day-Lewis about the characters he's inhabited over the years. really a part of it. Wow. I guess he's adaptable. He certainly has figured out any way to monetize the park and various parts of the park. So even that meant closing down for the pandemic, because that would mean that when it reopened, it'd be more valuable, more precious to people, would be flocking when the gates open, when to reopen, how to reopen. He's the only CEO that charges people to sit in the shade. He's very proud of that fact. So yeah, the fact that he can monetize anything and so it means being nice and helping people and being nice with the guests. He'll do that, whatever makes a buck at the time. So I think he reflects a lot of different the sort of corporate point of view of the corporate owners of the various parks of how best to serve himself.
Right.
Not in the guest's best interest. I'm sure plenty of things right now going on. I feel like with the Disney Genie that seem like designed to streamline the internal paperwork and not anything to do with how the guest experience works. So I was like, what makes it easier for us, but not for the guests. So what's the point of that? So I guess that might be my answer. Is he can't never count him out. He'll always find a way to squeeze more out of the guests and the workers.
Yes. Oh, of course, the workers. Yeah, and certainly with the social media presence and with the podcast appearances, you hear a lot from Murph about the creative ways that he is saving money and getting guests to spend more money. And like you alluded to, it's very almost eerie. Makes me wonder, I wonder if Disney executives have been paying attention to Fake Theme Park to get ideas, because they have definitely gotten more crafty themselves with saving money and also, giving guests less per dollar than they used to get, and guests still flock. And that's a whole nother story, but we can talk for hours probably about that. But in any case,
one of the biggest compliments I get is, I'm still not tired of getting it, in case you want to still tweet at me, just the response of, I thought this was supposed to be a fake park. I hit it so on the head. I've overlapped, my park has overlapped reality to the point now that parody is reality.
Right. That's true though. That's a good point. Yeah. Wow. That's, you could even, I remember one of your early kind of satires was about food service and talking about, what food options are available. I think Doug or one of the other guys asked you, and you said, well, if you like Panda Express, we've got Panda Express, and we've got Panda Express. And that's it. We just have Panda Express. And I love that little bit. And, granted, in real life, we have more than just Panda Express, but with the pandemic, a lot of food options have been reduced, and as many choices at a lot of parks. And so, yeah, it's interesting. I think the satire, if you think about it, you got started with Fake Theme Park, 10 years ago. So going back to about 2010, which that was coincidentally also right when the first Wizarding World was opened here, Universal Orlando and Islands of Adventure. And a lot of people, myself included, look at the Wizarding World and the watershed from that. Not just that it saved Universal from bankruptcy and perhaps from even the parks going out of business or God knows what are being sold off, but it also, I think, is not the first golden age, but the latest golden age, if you will, of theme parks, and how, there's now people will spend more per ticket, which allows bigger and better attractions to be built, and all this IP focus gets better storytelling, and all of this stems back to Potter. And so here you were getting started in that right when all that was going on, which was a great time. And a lot of your parody is matched in real life because of the pandemic and other factors that are going on now. And it's interesting how that sort of convergence has happened recently.
Yeah, it was an interesting time. I just actually came out of that when I was an employee. I was actually there in 10 years with 4 different owners.
Wow. Yeah, it was a bad time.
Yeah, it was a bad time, and lastly would have been Comcast,
right?
In there, so I was there for that as well.
Yeah, and speaking of, and a little bit of humor here, but also a little reality. I've said this to friends. I'm like, who would ever have predicted, quote, most evil corporations that people generally refer to out there as cable companies? And Comcast is one of the biggest. Who would figure that of all things, a cable company would save Universal, not just save the company, but Universal has never been doing better. They're even beating Disney in many areas. And I got to hand it, I'm not a big fan of cable companies, but Comcast, thank you. Thank you for doing what you've done. It's amazing. And they love Universal. They love, they give them a lot of free reign, the executives that run Universal themselves, the parks and whatnot. Comcast really supports them, and that's fantastic. We all know this is, why you're on the show today is, it's people don't know, listening to this episode, we're about to reveal it, that Fake Theme Park is being retired. What led you to that decision after 10 plus years?
Yeah, several. Thank you for asking. Several things. It was not an easy decision, if anyone thinks it was, because I've been doing it for so long. One reason was, as I keep saying, I was there. My last tour of any kind of life before I walked out the door was April 2008. So even I admit I may not be the best authority to make comments on the inner workings of theme parks anymore. Maybe I was until today, but someone can take up the mantle and take up the order, or multiple someone's beyond me. In 11 years, I've also find that I'm kind of at times repeating myself. There's plenty of new things happening. The pandemic wasn't ever on my agenda. That was a whole new bunch of jokes for that. When Star Wars wasn't part of Disney when I first started doing it, and Star Wars opened up a whole But still, when you're doing it every single day, multiple times a day, on 2 different platforms, there are some jokes that repeat themselves, and I don't really love that. I like to, as a writer, I'm trying to spend my time on other things, and I realize how much of a day is not just, jokes don't come out of thin air. I have an incoming feed on Fake Theme Park. Fake Theme Park follows people, and so I see what's going on in the world and make comments on that. But it has to be, somewhat digested before I just joke, and then that's up to 4 times a day. So, and I do make other content. I make music videos and then audio things, graphics. So it's just, it's all fun. It's obviously I've done it for the joy because there's no money in it, but you can be spent on other writing projects. And now I only give 80% of my brain to it. When I give 100% and see if that goes any better. So for all these reasons, that's the time. I also want to stop. It is still fun, but like Universal, there was a point at Universal when I was working there, it was not as much fun walking people around as doing a theme park for 8 hours a day in 105-degree heat in the valley. It's time to do something else. That's not a fun day. So it's still fun. I don't want to wait until it's not fun and all the followers are gone and it's just sad. I might as well, try to go out on top. If I had to
go out on a high, right? Yeah, makes sense. One thing, a question I just thought of, in the 10 plus years on the social media side of things, has there ever been, I told that story earlier about the little jabbing between Universal Hollywood and Universal Orlando, one only having one level and be sad to only have one park. So have you ever had any interactions with, on social media with any of the park PR teams? Have there been any kind of funny exchanges?
No, not really. And it's been mostly on purpose. I felt it was weird. I'll say the word desperate. It looked a little much, and it's supposed to be a comedy project. Everyone knows what I'm making fun of, but to start tagging them and talking to them seemed kind of like begging for attention. For one thing,
too on the nose, maybe.
Yes, for me to go to kind of make them respond by tagging them and kind of harassing them. And to be honest, as someone who worked in social media for many, up until it was like 2 or 3 years ago, was my main source of income. That's what that person is thinking. They don't want. How are they supposed to deal with me? I can say anything. I can make a bunch of jokes.
Right.
What are they gonna? They can't screw around with me. They'll get fired. So I'm not sure. It's like kind of a lose-lose. Somebody else can tag us both. Somebody else can reply and make the connection. Feel free. I don't care if a third party wants to do it. But for me to kind of poke them seemed like, what is that? So that seemed kind of sad to me.
I get it.
How do I win that exactly?
Yeah, I get it. It could be a little tricky. Only reason why I bring it up is because, especially Universal Orlando, those guys are freaking heroes. Because that's real world. That's not a fake theme park. They're working for a real corporation, and they are. I don't know if it's one person or more than one person, but they are just so on it. And they are doing sort of what Fake Theme Park does, because they go after Disney a lot in a fun, way, competitive but fun way, where they'll, they made fun of the trams coming back, and they made fun of passes still being available, and it's like, in a way, they do what Fake Theme Park does. And I personally wonder, granted you've not had interactions with them, but I wonder if maybe whoever's doing that, if they were partially inspired by Fake Theme Park and seeing it or hearing it. You never know. Maybe.
I'll take that as a great compliment. So, and maybe there's time before the park is finally over, and that the Universal has sort of changed attitudes. In the beginning, it was so easy to parody. It was so cheery. It was like 1995. Disney was tweeting everything with exclamation points. Everything was great. And Universal, I think, wisely took, like, you can't outdo Disney. Let's be snarky. We're the Fast and Furious, Shrek, kind of brand. Let's do that. Maybe now in the final months, I could give it a shot. What if I had to lose now? And they might.
Yeah, you never know. Because again, those are theme park employees you've resonated with that are running that account. They're real people that maybe could appreciate you. So speaking of people involved with fake theme park that can be appreciated, obviously you're moving on in the real world, writing and being able to focus on more things is part of why you're retiring fake theme park. But there's a certain someone that, he may not have quite the same options you do. So tell me, with fake theme park retiring, what is going to happen to Murph Gantley?
Well, it's an interesting question. I've thought about that a lot, about how things are going to end. Not that there's spoilers or anything, but I think I'm leaning towards, and I'll ask your opinion on this, Andrew, if you agree with this idea. I feel like this could be like a TV show, where the TV show ends, but it isn't necessarily like, Gilligan's Island, they left the island. That's over. Or
Right.
Star Trek Voyager, they come home. So there's nothing left to do. I feel like with other Star Trek series, the ship just keeps going. They just have
Right.
more adventures, and they turn the cameras off. So I'm not sure that people have said that to me already when I announced the ending of it, of, the park will burn down, Murph Gantley will go broke, princesses will have no job. I feel like, isn't that kind of sad?
That's sad, yeah.
Really? And I'm not sure if that's the fun way to go. So this idea that the park will still be out there. People can imagine however they want. Obviously, the Twitter will still be sitting there. I'm not going to delete the account. So people can go through that. The books will still be available on Amazon for purchase. You can still go see it on Facebook. And there's still a music video people can enjoy. So I think it may just kind of stop, as opposed to me going, well, the park has burned down. Everyone has been killed. And like, that's sort of dark for
Right.
a thing. So I'm not sure it's going to end in any way like that. Have a big event. That don't really do a lot of storytelling. You can tune in, if as you were, anytime. There's nothing there. Yes, there's some recurring character, like the Princess Rainbow is a recurring character.
Right.
You don't have to, if anyone's listening going, I don't want 11 years of canon. This is not Game of Thrones. You can tune in anytime and get a joke about churros.
Right.
Right. And it raining things out. To have a story at the end seems kind of also off-brand, because there is no story. It's just a crazy part.
Right. No, that's a good point. And yeah, you can just kind of let it just end. And as long as you don't pull a Lost finale, because that is one of the most tragic finales. I talk about that periodically with friends. Again, I'm a big TV show movie guy, but yeah, just don't end on a downer or end on a WTF moment, like that. And I think you're onto something there. So with you now retiring fake theme park, you talked about getting more into writing. So are you going to be taking your satirical comedic flair in a new direction?
Well, first of all, thank you. I hear a compliment in there, comedic flair.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course.
I write. I have been a paid writer in various ways. I've written articles for various sites. I was a columnist for a while at a few sites. I have some industry writing. I was hired to write a bunch of screenplays in this fantasy universe. First one should be coming out in 2022 sometime. It was already on Amazon Prime. Then it got pulled down because it's going to be distributed. I'm not sure if distributed means theaters or just means, some kind of on demand on your TV. But either way, it's a real movie, and I got paid.
Right.
I got to write all 4 of them.
That's awesome.
A pilot I've been shopping around, a pilot script that has at times is getting more and more interest. So maybe that might become something again, whether that's on NBC on Thursdays or is on YouTube. I don't know, but I have written various kinds of pilots and sketches and screenplays, and then even comedy videos for fake theme park. So I'll be just doing more of that, of just writing of some kind. But I also write nonfiction articles about Star Trek and
nice.
all things that interest me.
Oh,
So,
really?
Yeah.
So, all things said here, we're about theme park therapy, and we've talked about, the real world, your own theme park experiences, big theme park. What would you want to say in terms of any advice you'd want to give our audience?
As an employee, I could say, and this is, people rightly have a dividing line between a Disney cast member and, say, a Universal person.
Right.
Disney is this high caliber, and Universal maybe is not quite as selective. That's the myth. I am not confirming or denying that. So as an employee, we are there to help. As a VIP guide, I walk people around everywhere. The VIP tour was the studio, but also it was a theme park guided tour. So I went into Terminator 2 and I went into Back to the Future and World. So I got to know all the employees. Even the joke was all the studio guys had college degrees, and so maybe the other departments were more for blue collar people still in high school, something like that. And getting to know all of them, all the different backgrounds, all different races, all different everything. And it was very interesting to meet people beyond the studio guide break room. That sort of that level of thing, of income, of education, of background and perspective. What I'm trying to say is, theme park employees, everyone, even the person in the churro cart, even the person, selling ice cream, never mind the ride-ops, and obviously the big people like characters and princesses are there to help. So if you are in any kind of need, obviously we see the outside that's people being yelled out over masks, but if you have an actual need, an actual concern, if you're worried about something, you can ask a ride-op to go, you see this giant sign about all the things that are going to happen in this ride, you tell me about it. What is going to be, this drops, how big a drop, how many drops, is this dark, how dark, strobe lights affect me, but what level of strobe light? So obviously the ride-ops are the ride the best, but anyone can tell you how long the studio tour is, and people can tell you'll get wet on that ride. Everyone knows those sort of things if they're a good employee. So deal with them with a concern if you're anxious, if you're nervous, if you've lost something, if there's any concern of even a complaint, if it's something right away, not a general complaint about ticket prices they can't help with. That thing is broken and that is sharp or something. That's too, that we're happy to do something. Solve a problem, help a guest, help a kid, make a kid's day magical, even if it's universal, which is not our word. So feel free, don't feel that it's just you and a bunch of signs and announcements, warnings and sort of sirens at you. There are people, I'm not saying managers, I'm saying actual line employees who are regular folks and will be happy to help you with a disability, with a child, with a concern, with some kind of anxiety. So don't feel like I just got to read the brochure. That's it. Once the brochure says there's a drop, I'll just have to figure it out from there.
Really good advice, Jason. I appreciate that. No one has ever suggested that before. That's awesome.
Happy to help.
Yeah, absolutely. And so last but not least, here we are at a crossroads. Fake theme parks going away, and you're moving on to other things. So perhaps what you could do here is to share where people can find you, whether it be whatever aspects of Fake Theme Park will still be out there after the retirement. And then if you want to share anything about how people can find you with what you're doing next, whatever you want to share, website, social media, feel free to share away.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I love that. Well, yeah, the easy thing is Fake Theme Park. It's all one word. It's at Fake Theme Park on Twitter. Also Fake Theme Park on Facebook. It's a page. If people are listening are like, I hate Twitter, I'm not on Twitter, it's too toxic, or whatever the reason is, okay, we're on Facebook too, content. So don't worry, you're not missing anything. Also YouTube, because I have co-written 2 comedy songs. I had a lot of time, a lot of energy on this for not any money, but I made fun. I made a princess anthem parody and a parody of the Mickey Mouse Club march. And I mean completely original songs, not just the same music with different words. Actually, a composer came in and we wrote it together, and one of them has an actual video, someone playing a princess. And again, that was my own money for nothing, for ad revenue that never came in. So there's Fake Theme Park on all these various platforms. There are 2 books that do make me some money, should you feel you would like to support the cause. If you have Kindle Unlimited, they are nothing. They're totally free. $5 on Kindle, $20 paperback. That comes from most of the publisher more than me. They're self-published, but I still go through some company to get these. You just Google Fake Theme Park or my name and see the first one is called If the Princess Rolls Her Eyes, Your Wish Will Come True. And the second one is called You Must Be This Tall to Exit the Park.
Those are both great names.
Thank you. Copy edited by my lovely wife. So those are, again, either free or up to $20 that are fun. That is content from the best of in various categories. One book has Halloween, one book has Christmas, one book has a princess interview, one book has a Murph Gantling interview, if you're more into Murph Gantling. So it's both things, the best of from the Twitter and Facebook, and original content. You will not find it anywhere else. So make it somewhat worthwhile your money. The things that are just too long for a Facebook post that are, I have a whole timeline of park events, and some things that are just paragraphs and paragraphs that are documents from the park that you'll find. So those are a good value, I think. So that's Fake Theme Park. If you want me, I'm Jason Ginsburg. It's Ginsburg, like a town, like Gettysburg. I'm on IMDb. I am on Twitter. I'm not quite as funny as Fake Theme Park. I am funny sometimes, and I talk about Star Trek and the Universal Monsters. I'm a big fan of them. I write articles about them, both for myself and for other publications. So yeah, at Ginsburg. I was on Twitter very early, as I said, back when it was just starting, so I got the last name, Ginsburg. And you can look me up. I'm on IMDb as well, if you want to see these projects I'm talking about, these fantasy films that are coming out, then some comedy videos for National Lampoon, Playboy, Home Shopping Network, Science Channel, Animal Planet, some of them are still online, some of them disappeared over the years. This is going over a decade now, but I'm happy to talk to people. DMs are open on Twitter. Feel free to talk to me. If you want to do some kind of business contact, I'm on LinkedIn as well. I work in television. If anyone wants to talk about that world, streaming TV in particular, I'm happy to talk to anybody. I'm too friendly. If it gets to be too much, I'll turn it off. Right now, I'm happy to talk to anybody about TV, about writing, about Star Trek, about Disney, anything. It's all good.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jason. And like I said, we'll make sure to link the season pass episode. I think there was 4 of them you've been on so far, maybe 5.
Maybe 5, yeah.
Yeah, it might be 5, but I'll look those all up in the archives on Season Pass's website, and we'll link those in our show notes as well. Well, again, thank you, Jason, for visiting with us and telling us all about yourself and Fake Theme Park. Thank you.
Oh, been a pleasure. I love talking about myself. I'll do it anytime.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Jason. You know, guys, that was a really awesome episode. And, you know, Jason, it's really sad that you're going to be officially retiring. You've done such an incredible job with Fake Theme Park. Everybody just loves what you do, and you just make it so funny. And everything you do in those episodes is so true about the theme park industry. You're definitely going to be missed, but at least your episodes will always still be on the air for people to listen. And hopefully, maybe someday you'll come back and do a comeback and bring Murph back for special occasions. Well, guys, it's been a really, really awesome episode today. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Pretty much, this is the last episode of February. We are actually heading to our final 4 episodes of season 1. I can't believe the season's actually coming to an end. But season 2 will be starting in April. So we've got a very exciting guest lineup for season 2. Some that are going to blow your socks off, I'll tell you that. But Justin, how can they find us here on social media?
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. And if you want to see more from us, we upload every Friday. And check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all at Coaster Challenge. Links in the description.
Thank you, Justin. Yes, guys, make sure to subscribe to all our social media channels. Make sure to give us a thumbs up and a special review on your favorite podcast network. We really appreciate it. We work very hard to bring some great entertainment and hopefully some education out there for people to be able to help them break their fears and anxieties. We just really appreciate all your love and support out there. You know, we've having one incredible season, and I just want to take the time to thank you guys so much. But anyway, guys, this is David Cantu with the Coaster Challenge Podcast, and we'll see you right here next week.